Hello learners, I'm Anju Sehgal Gupta and today we are going to talk about the process of report writing. As you know, this is a very important aspect of any business communication. So let's revise a little bit. What is a report? As you know, a business report is a solicited document. That means solicited means that somebody has asked you to do it, written for a specific purpose, according to the prescribed terms of reference, and it is designed for a specific audience. Okay? So remember these 4-5 things. Solicited document, someone asked you, you just don't write a report yourself. It's for a specific purpose, according to the prescribed terms of reference for a specific audience. A report consists of facts, arguments on specific subject or subjects, and it is presented in an orderly, systematic manner. Any business concern, this is an integral part of. It helps a business in problem solving and decision making. So very important. And all of you will have to write reports at some point or the other, so listen carefully. So it's a factual, objective document. So even if you have some feelings, make sure it is factual and objective document, because major decisions will be made according to the report that is made or created. Now, why are reports important? They are important because they are used for both informational and analytical purposes. So you analyze data, you inform your bosses about what is happening in your company. And as I said, it helps people in decision making, problem solving, monitoring performance, doing market surveys. So these are the areas where reports are used, and it's a very well structured document. Again, let's look at the functions of a report. So it enables decision making and problem solving, as I said, in an organization. So because of the market surveys, or it helps authorities to plan new ventures. If you want to start something, you do a market survey and then you begin it, if it is going to be feasible or not. It is also used to disseminate information within the organization and outside the organization. It is a record of the growth that is taking place in your organization, the progress that is being made, and the success of an organization. All this is documented, may be required for required maybe for the annual general meetings that you may conduct. And it helps you to take timely decisions, your bosses to take timely decisions, so the company prospers. So it is, in short, a repository of valuable information. Very important, therefore, when you write a report, to stick to facts, to do your research carefully, because this report is going to help you in growing your organization. So what are the guidelines for preparing reports? Reports are also of two types. They are routine or of special nature. So they may be reports that you have to routinely make. This could be a tour report. You go for a tour, you make a tour report. Or it could be something which is especially solicited by your general manager or your chairperson, that they need some information because they're starting a new venture and they want you to probably do a market survey. So routine reports are prepared by subordinate staff, or routinely by people who go on trips, or who visit sites. So these are just prepared, and it is a demand of the organization. But special reports which are solicited are prepared by senior officers. And even if they give parts of it to junior people in the organization, they will have they'll closely monitor what these subordinate staff do. So a report writer needs to remember the purpose of a report, the time frame within which the report has to be submitted, and the status of the receiver on the organization, because the formality of the report also will depend on the status of the receiver in the organization. If it's a chairperson, it has to be a deadly serious, very formal report and has to be completed on time. You cannot say, oh, I have, I'm late. You have to complete it on time. Anyway, it is better to finish your work on time. Okay, so now for some guidelines, and we begin with accuracy. The information should be accurate and reliable, because remember, your recommendations, your conclusions will all lead to some kind of major decisions that is going to take place in your organization. So there should be factual data. So the method that you select and the sources that you identify should be such that you can obtain accurate information. If the information is not accurate, then there is a possibility of wrong decisions being taken. Accurate information helps in taking right decisions. So, very, very important that you should be accurate. Your data should be sourced from highly, sources which have great integrity. You just cannot pick up your resources from anywhere. Communication. Since reports are considered vehicles of information, and it should be highly communicable. And how do you make them highly communicable? One is short but clear title. The title of the report should be indicative of contents of report. It should be attractive. It should be short, clear title, which will reflect the contents of the report. Then let's go to the opening paragraph. It should indicate terms of reference or instructions, and it should be immediately made clear why the report was required. Language. It should be written in such language that it is understandable to the people reading it. Simple language as far as possible. Unnecessary jargon and technical terms should be avoided. Where it is necessary to use technical terms, please use them, because and it also depends on who your reader is, because if your reader is aware of all the technical terms that you use, then it is okay. But remember, use simple language as far as possible. Don't use unnecessary big words which will make it difficult for some people to read it. Don't forget to paragraph. It's very important to divide the report into a number of paragraphs. And each para should be devoted to a specific aspect of the report, a specific aspect that you want to underline, and it should have suitable subtitles. Then concise. A report should deal with the matter as concisely as possible. So don't go on and on, in flowery language. Be as concise as possible. If details of certain aspects are essential, they can be separately appended to the report. These can be appendices, and these should be referred to in relevant parts of the report. So in other words, whatever is, essential data should be part of the report. Something which is a little extra but necessary to the report can be in the appendix. We're going to talk about recommendations again because these are so important, but they should be given at the end of the report under the heading of suggestions or recommendations. These recommendations should not be how you feel about things. It should be based on what has been studied, analyzed or scrutinized, and on the basis of your analysis and scrutiny, the management can take decisions which are based on the recommendations given in the report. Always sign the report, and if there are multiple people writing the report, all of them should have their signature, and the date of the report is also very important. So these are some of the things that are very important for any report. Then we go on to the procedure of writing a report. As I mentioned earlier, determine the purpose of the report, identify your receivers or readers, collect necessary data, analyze and classify the data, outline the report before you start writing it, prepare the final report, and then the business of presentation of the report. So one by one we go through all the steps. One is determine the purpose of the report. So as I mentioned earlier, every report must serve a specific purpose, and all the information, analysis, interpretation of data needs to be kept in view by the report writer, because this would lead to decision making or problem solving. So be very careful of the information, the analysis that you do, and how you interpret the data. As a first step in report writing, one should identify the purpose of the report. So this is the first step. Then you need to identify the receiver or user. So one should also identify users of report in terms of the number of people who are going to read it, their expertise, because it may be varied people who might read it. So be sure of their expertise, their interests, their position in the hierarchy. All this is also very important for you to know before you start this process of writing a report. Then expertise. The report writer should know to what extent the users of the report are going to be conversant with the subject matter of the report, how familiar they are going to be with the technical aspects of the report. So you should know, is it a general reader or is it an expert who's going to read your report, and what is the person's position in the organization. Then you need to know the interests, because your facts and findings will be presented in that manner once you find out the interests of the person reading the report. As I mentioned, the hierarchy within the organization of the reader. So they could be top management, departmental heads, supervisors. So the contents of the report, style of presentation, the details that need to be mentioned will depend on the position or rank of the user in the organization. So be very, very aware of this, because if you write something which is meant for actually your colleagues, and the management reads it, the top management reads it, then it doesn't do you any good. So be very, very clear about whom you're writing this report for. Collect the necessary data. So the research has to be done very well. So once the purpose of the report is clearly understood and the users have been identified, attention should be paid to collecting data from various sources. And data, as you know, generally consists of facts and figures. The primary data is collected through interviews, observations, mailed questionnaires, schedules. Secondary data is available from files, documents, published and unpublished reports. I cannot emphasize more. Please be very accurate and reliable where collection of data is concerned. This the report writer should always keep in mind, because important decisions are going to be based on this. Then analyze and classify the data. So the effectiveness of the report depends on the ability to analyze data properly, interpret it correctly, and draw appropriate conclusions. After that, you need to outline the report. So you've classified the data, then you prepare the outline of the report. Now the organization of the report will be determined by whether it is a long report, short report. The long report will have many parts. So while preparing the outline, concentrate on three major parts: introduction, body of the report, and conclusions with the recommendations. Now, two main aspects of report need to be decided upon at this stage: the order in which the introduction, body of report, and conclusion and recommendations can be presented, and how to organize the body of a report as it constitutes the larger part of a report. So, any of the three options may be adapted and adopted depending on what your report is going to be all about. Option 1 is introduction, body, conclusion. Option 2 is introduction, conclusion, body. And option 3 is going to be conclusion, introduction, body. So it's not just one introduction, body, conclusion that we do in all cases. The first option is when the user is not likely to understand the conclusions until the whole report is read. So you have to follow in a sense, the straight path, that is the introduction, body, and conclusion. So this option is also suitable when the conclusions are disagreeable from the user's point of view, or the conclusions are contrary to the user's point of view. So you better sort of give the whole, spiel before that. So, the conclusion sort of tells you why the whole thing is going to be a little disagreeable. There is a lot of data which tells you why. And sometimes you follow this part because the receiver of the report is to spend considerable time reading detailed information before accepting the conclusions. Now, options 2 and 3 can be adopted under these 4 conditions. 1, when the reader needs the conclusions first. 2, when the receiver has enough background to understand the conclusions without reading other parts of the report, but those other parts are necessary. The report would be easier to read as conclusions provide a framework for interpreting information in the body, when the conclusions are agreeable from the point of view of the receiver. So then you change the order. Then preparing the final report. One should start writing the report then and be very careful about presentation, as this will enhance the effectiveness of a report. Use the normal symbols that other report writers use. Present the body of your information in tables, graphs, diagrams. This will help the readers easily understand the substance of the report. Then adopt the appropriate style in accordance with the nature and purpose of the report. So this is how you do the final report. Of course, I'm not getting into the whole business of the process of writing in terms of, you write the first draft and then you write the second draft and you show it to somebody. I'm not telling you all this. That is when you need to write, the whole process of writing. At this point, when you write the report, you should do a first draft and do a second draft. You should be careful about that. You should be careful about the presentation. Use common set of symbols. Use tables, graphs, diagrams, and have an appropriate style. So when writing a report, consider these points. The language should be appropriate. Avoid unfamiliar big words as much as possible. Avoid offensive language. Avoid too much of the you tone. Your report should be in an impersonal style. Adopt a positive approach wherever possible, even if the salespeople have done a really bad job. Avoid using a negative tone, but adopt a positive approach. Instead of the passive voice, use the active voice as much as possible. Make sure that each paragraph contains only one central idea. If you use too many ideas, it becomes a hodgepodge. Avoid unnecessary repetition. Check and recheck your script for grammar and other spelling errors. Please, punctuation errors. Please do that, because a badly written report gives a very bad impression to the top management. Now we are going back to recommendation. As I've already mentioned, that the purpose of classification and analysis of data is to facilitate in making useful recommendations. So when drawing conclusion on the basis of data, the writer has all the freedom and the discretion. So you use your freedom and discretion. Let the management do what they want after you have done your job. Be sure that the recommendations are convincing to the readers. It's not that after you've made your recommendations, the management throws them all out. Substantiate your suggestions with data. So, the final draft of all reports should incorporate all major recommendations. And every report, once prepared, must be presented to the appropriate authority for considerations and decision making. And it can be an oral presentation, and we'll have different videos for oral presentations, or it could be a written presentation. Then let's go on to this long and short reports. So business reports are classified on the basis of their length, details, depth into long reports and short reports, and they have their own format. Long reports have three parts: the preliminary part, then the main text, and the supplementary part. And each of these parts include several subparts. So you have the preliminary part, which is the title fly, which contains only the report title. The title, as I said before, should be brief and indicative of the contents and depth of the report. Then the title page. This is compulsory for all business reports. It includes title of report, name and designation of author, date of submission, and name and title of person for whom it is prepared. Then you have the authorization document, which is a copy of the letter issued by the competent person authorizing the report. And this can also be included in the preliminary part, though it's not compulsory. Table of contents, it's the list of chapters or divisions. It is a list of tables, list of figures, appendices, bibliography, page numbers for each heading of the chapters. Then it has the list of tables presented separately after table of contents, and please have the table number, table title, page number where the table is located. So actually preparing a report is a big job, and the list is prepared in the same order as the tables appear in the report, and similar with the list of figures. The list of figures is also the same as the list of tables. You have the abstract, also called the synopsis. It summarizes the entire report, helps the receiver to form the idea of the report before reading it completely. It is generally of a few paragraphs and seldom exceeds 1 page, though it can be about 2 pages as well. Then you have the text, the main part, and this is between the preliminary and the supplementary parts, and it is the body of the report, and it constitutes major parts of the report and comprises 3 major parts: introduction, body, conclusion. We've already discussed that a little bit. Then we have the supplementary part, which is at the end of the text. It consists of endnotes. You often have footnotes. Now we have endnotes. Footnotes were at the bottom. Now we generally have endnotes immediately after the text, and they should be presented in the same serial order as cited in the report. And annexures or appendices which are useful to the report, but which when presented within the text may detract attention of the reader. So it is better to present them at the end of the report as appendices or annexure. And of course, all questionnaires, letters, memos, and other related material are normally included here. Bibliography. This is a list of reference to all the publications that you might have consulted, and it's presented in an alphabetical order. You also have an index sometimes, not always, but sometimes. This is an alphabetical list of key topics or terms, indicating page number wherein the topic or term occurs. And this also can occur in the supplementary part. Then let's go on to the short report. Again, this depends upon the purpose, context, and intended receivers. There can be 3 types of reports normally: in the memo form, minutes, or the letter form. Memorandum is the most widely used form of written report within an organization. This is within the organization. And it is used for interdepartmental and interbranch communication. And it is prepared to be filed as records and references. It's concise. It simplifies and speeds up communications. Organizations often provide pre-printed forms to users with basic elements of any memo. And so this is a little bit of a memo that I have pushed in, and I've given you the format. You will find it in your other units as well. So this is just to give you how the format is. It is to, from, date, subject, and I hope you will take the body, and I hope you will take appropriate action to resolve the problem and prevent the agitation of workmen taking any serious turn. So you can read this on your own. The short reports are in the form of memorandum and minutes and are intended for internal communication within the organization. Then you have for external communication, and they are presented in the letter form. A letter report is just like a letter in appearance. I won't even get into that because you know that. And then the minutes of the meetings normally, and I'll just sort of very quickly show you how it is done. You can read it on by yourself. And here the members who were present, members who were absent, and all the major points that were taken at the meeting, major decisions taken at the meeting. Let's talk of now 7 errors that can undermine your report. One is lack of objectivity. That is when you see only those facts that support your view and ignore any contradictory information. This is actually a dishonest thing to do. So don't do it. Don't form hasty generalizations. So don't form judgments on the basis of insufficient evidence or special cases. Hidden assumptions. When you're hiding something because you don't want to tell the higher management. When you're just presenting either or scenarios, you're just setting up 2 alternatives and not allowing for other alternatives that might be there, or making false causal relationships. So assuming that event A caused event B only because A precedes B. It cannot be, this cause and effect should not be part of your relationships that you make. This is false, and don't do that. Then begged questions, that is assuming as proven what you're going to prove. You know, you've decided they're going to prove this, so you sort of go along in that path. Don't do that. Analyze your data with integrity. Don't make personal attacks. Don't appeal to popular prejudice within the organization. Sinking people or ideas you don't like is bad. So don't do that. So I would like to stop here. I really wish that you do not make any of these errors, but above all, be very certain of your objectivity, accuracy. Do not have any personal agendas. Do not be somebody who is trying to please the organization. Have great integrity in your analysis and your interpretation, because at the end of the day, remember, your report is going to define what your organization becomes and also help your bosses to make the correct decisions. So please be extremely careful when you write your report. Thank you very much.